Hello, so I'll be using Sutori. I got this idea from Nick Abusi because I looked at his project and I thought it was amazing. So I'll also be using Sutori to do my 2.1 discussion on new literacies. So this my discussion is based on two journal articles. Well, the first one was it's an editorial from Esther Rosenfeld. So basically, she's talking about the fact that we cannot use Web 2.0, so it's called blocking 2.0 tools in schools. So she's talking about the fact that because we can't use these things, we're actually creating a new divide for students, not just for students, but also for teachers in school, because we're not allowed to use these Web 2.0 tools and are always blocked. And then another article that I looked up was by Teresa Chimara, and it's Minors' First Amendment Rights and the Child Internet Protection Act of 2001. So those were the two articles that I used to ground my discussion. So new literacies. What are new literacies? So I used the article that Jermaine gave us, Dawn and New Literacy. So I got a definition from Rick Allen. So basically reading and learning through the internet and other information and communication technologies. But these things require, this is reading and writing that requires like new social practices, dispositions, and that change as technology changes and are becoming an integral to full civic, economic, and personal participation in the global community. So that's what new literacies are. So my personal thoughts on this. I didn't actually know this was a thing that was being studied. And I have, in my current context, our school just became a 1-to-1 school and they block everything. Crazy things like Google Translate, because we use a Google API, so we use Google Suites, and everything is blocked. They've blocked Google Drive, they've blocked Google Translate, and the reason why they do all of this is because they're worried about kids getting access to any kind to websites with things they're not supposed to have. And then kids were finding inventive ways to, like, for example, they would upload a video to Google Drive and then share it with everybody else and doing everything except for what they were supposed to be doing when they were in school. So the issue there is that what they're asking them to do is boring, and what we're asking them to do doesn't incorporate all of these new technologies and things that kids know to express themselves. So that's the bigger issue. I don't think the issue is that these new technologies and Web 2.0 technologies are bad for kids. We're not incorporating them. We're not incorporating them into the education. So children are doing what they need to do to be fulfilled and have fun and do different things at school. So I didn't know this was a thing that was being studied, and I find myself, because I want to integrate these new things into the way that I teach and instruction in my classroom, and everything's blocked. I find myself constantly fighting with administrators to incorporate these things. But of course, they say that I never had the language to articulate myself, and my thoughts on this is that this is something that we need to be doing in school. And now that we're giving it the term new literacies, hopefully this is the impetus that administrators need to finally latch on to these things, and instead of blocking everything, take the stance of teaching students how to use these things responsibly. Potential impact on education. So this is a video, you can watch it later, but it's the history of student-led protests in the United States. So I am currently not in the United States, but this also happens in the United States. So since I'm in an Islamic country, it might be happening in a different degree than it happens in the United States. But because I looked up, what are children's rights, First Amendment rights, to have access to information and to have not necessarily free speech, but access to information when in schools. And thinking about all of the internet, because, the Child Internet Protection Act is old. Like, it came in 2001. And so many things have changed since 2001. And even though children can't vote, even though students can't vote, they definitely have the right to protest. And to protest, they've protested all kinds of things. Now the current thing is gun control and feeling safe at school. And I'm just wondering if When students start to see all of these things, are students going to eventually protest the way that they're essentially being blinded from they use all of these things outside of the class. Like, students know about all of these things and use these things in class. And I'm wondering if it's going to eventually lead to a protest where students are wanting to remove filters and wanting to incorporate all of this technology into their education. Because if it's compulsory and all of the students have to go, we can't continue to act like technology and all of these things that are happening in the world and in the information age don't exist when they come to school. They can't it's becoming, as Jason Oler said, irresponsible to turn your cell phone off. What if your kids call, or what if somebody calls, or what if information happens? So it's actually a part of being, a citizen, to have access to this information and to use it to inform the things that you're doing. So I'm really wondering if this is going to potentially lead to students protesting the way in which they're being educated and all of the things that aren't being included in their education. And that kind of went into my thoughts about all of these different things being blocked. But another thing that I want to add about the implications of this on education, is that parents actually want schools to teach students how to use these things responsibly. And I think that it should be a partnership between home and school, where students are learning to use things like Instagram, to be entrepreneurs, to be innovators, and to do the things that they're going to be required to do on their jobs, and for the jobs that we don't know exist yet. So I really don't think it's okay that students are being blinded and acting like these things don't exist, these technologies and things don't exist, these new literacies don't exist. I don't think that's cool. Possible strategies for implication. So I definitely think there needs to be a whole class that you need in order to graduate, just like civics used to be. Like, when I went to school, we had to take a civics class. You had to learn about voting and different things like that. I definitely think that not necessarily, like, new literacy should be incorporated into the curriculum, but also there should be a whole entire class akin to sex ed. I know there are a whole bunch of thoughts and different laws in different states about what should be taught for sex education, but it's a fact of life, and students need to learn about what's going to happen with their bodies health-wise and what happens. Students need to learn about these things, and not teaching students about these things, I really think, is a disservice. But a strategy that I think could help here is actually having a class that teaches students about digital citizenship and digital literacy, on top of incorporating these new digital literacies into the curriculum. And the questions that I'm posing for the audience is: do you think it's the responsibility of the parents, school, or both when it comes to teaching students to use the internet and web 2.0 tools responsibly? I should say responsibly, not responsibility. And another question that I wanted to ask is: do you think students have rights when it comes to freedom to access certain information and technology while in school and for the purpose of school? All right. Thank you for listening and have a great week.